Well, thank you for the introduction. I'd like to take 1 minute to share with you a moment I had 2 days ago. I had a little speech, a little talk at the Atlas Conference, which is a conference on sustainability in tourism. And I talked obviously about games and sustainability in games. And after the talk, we even had about 1 hour to play some games. And at the end, when I was leaving, one of the participants, he came by, he took my hand, and he told me, Klemens, I just want to thank you for the hour of escapism, which I really needed, because tomorrow I'm going home to Israel, and the only thing I have on my agenda are funerals. So I was quite overwhelmed, but it reminded me of the fact that we touch with games people, or we can reach people on quite a personal and an emotional level and give them some joy and some hope, even in dark times. And I think even though we heard in the last couple of days about the dark side of games a lot, games still can make the world a better place, even if it's just for 1 hour. Okay. Well, real, fake, analog, the joy of playing with real people and fake money. I want to give you a quick introduction to my person. I like to say that I originated in digital games, but somehow I stumbled into the field of analog games. And for now, about 18 years, I'm working as a graphic designer, illustrator, editor, on board games, on card games, on analog games. And yeah, during all those years staring at the games and working on the games, I started to think about the games. And since I have a background in academics as well, I started, a couple of years ago to talk about games and my experience and how mostly visuals in analog games work. What I'm not going to talk about today is how money and game met, and how money, immediately broke this magic circle of games that is somehow, defined by not affecting reality. Money came into the play, into game, and affected reality. I'm not talking about jetons either, this strange surrogate of fake money that you buy and that you play with, and that is exchanged in both directions, some sort of security mechanism. Even though I have to mention there are beautiful publications on this topic, and it's a joy to look at them. There are also great publications on toy money for kids to learn, or we try to teach kids already when they're young to handle money. Beautiful publication available online, and it has its roots. We already heard in the 19th century where people had those beautiful little stores where children could play shopping and learned how to handle money. And of course, if you search online, you find all the material, you find all the pictures of beautiful and interesting toy money. And I'm not going to talk about Monopoly, even though Monopoly introduced the toy money or introduced money to board games, and I'm not talking about the original Landlord game, we already heard a lot of it, but I strongly recommend that you search Monopoly Not Even Once, which is a video by a YouTuber who describes why Monopoly is not a good game in terms of game design. The Landlord game was a good game because it had the correct framing and it had the right narrative that supported the idea of this mismanagement and this situation that is quite critical. And I'm not talking about nice components or different currencies in games, like in Orongo, which is a board game where you bid with the little shells, because it's not money. It's a currency, but it's not money. And I'm not going to talk about overly complex games like the 18xx games, which are a mixture of railroad building and stock market exchange. Those games, or people playing those games, often take a tablet or a laptop in addition to calculate all the different money aspects in the game. So what am I going to talk about? I'm going to talk about games as systems. That's a few I really like because it enables to highlight the difference between board games, analog games, and digital games. When we look at game systems, we have players, of course, who are interacting through the system. We have components, and we have a game system, a rule set that tells us how the different rules are working, how we can interact. And there are two directions. One direction is the player interacting with the system. Players making their moves, making their choices, and giving input to the system. The other way around is the game itself is giving us feedback as players. And that's something digital games are really good because we have this black box that is calculating everything. For example, if I attack an enemy in a role-playing game, I have to simply push the button and all the calculations are done in the background. In an analog game, the players themselves have to roll the dice, have to calculate, so the whole system is lying open and you could say naked in front of the players, and without the players executing these procedures, a board game, an analog game wouldn't be possible. So that's a really interesting and important part of looking at board games and how they work and why they work in the way they do. So here are some examples of money in board games I'm going to talk about. It could be a wooden token that you push on a track back and forth. It could be cardboard coins. It could be metal coins. There is a big market which originated a little bit in the whole Kickstarter phenomenon that players and people are willing to pay real money to exchange their cardboard money to metal coins because the sound, the feeling, the touching of the money is completely different if you have metal coins or if you have cardboard coins. I have some coins with me. If you want to make the comparison, please feel free. There is, of course, paper money, which interestingly is often used in the United States and not so common in Europe. And we have other forms of money like the backside of cards. So in which way money is or can be used in board games, probably even differently than in digital games. I already mentioned it's important to touch money, so the physical quality. It's a way of interacting with other players through money, so the concept of money as a medium is visible here as well. It's about playing with money embedded in the system, money as a game component that you use to execute rules. It's about seeing values through money, and interestingly, there are examples of receiving a story through money. I will go through 4 examples to show you what I mean. This one is Diamonds Club. It's a game about rich white people doing things rich white people do. They buy stuff, they invest, and they get richer. So here you see a picture of the money in the game, nice plastic coins. And the core concept of the game is that if you want to activate an action, you have to place 1 coin on an action space. That's the basic amount you have to pay. If you want to place or want to activate another action field that is adjacent to a field or a space with a coin, you have the 1 coin that you have to pay, and for every adjacent coin you have to pay 1 additional, but you stack them on the game board. So what we have here is not only a way of visualizing the price for specific spaces on the game board, but we also have a spatial element of where we want to invest, where we want to put our money. And as you can see, it's getting more and more expensive. Yeah, the last one is like, we have 4 or 5 coins around, so we have 5 coins and 1 additional would be 6. So at the end of a round, the game board could look like this. And to give you an idea of the difference, I did a quick mock-up of how a digital version of this game could look like. It would look like probably something like this, that you see the price of the space, that you can buy the space, and immediately all the surrounding spaces or fields are increased in terms of their price. So this would be, in terms of underlying mechanisms, the same as what you've seen before. But you see the difference. On the one hand, we have something that is relying on these numbers. It can be adjusted automatically. On the other hand, we have this very intelligent system of, by placing the coins on the game board, I immediately see how expensive new spaces will be. Okay, the next one is really interesting as well. Who knows what the Lions of Lydia are? The Lions of Lydia were invented by King Croesus, and were the first coins in history, the first gold coins used as payment. And there's a game about this. And the interesting thing about this game is that, here are the coins. When you start, you only have traders who trade goods. You put one of your pawns at the spot, and you get for each color the corresponding good. It's not important how it works in detail, but that's the basic mechanism. And throughout the game, merchants pop up, those golden pawns. And when you do something in the presence of a merchant, you have the opportunity now to exchange the goods for money. And money is a joker, and money is needed to buy specific cards in this game. So this is how it looks. Those merchants come into the game later on. So what we have is, we start the game without money, and suddenly this new concept of a currency that can represent other goods is introduced and opens up the possibilities we have in the game. So it's a beautiful way of telling a story through the introduction of money and the concept of money. Another example, a game that I worked on, is Isle of Skye. And the basic idea, it's a mixture of Carcassonne, some of you might know, and an interesting money system, because we have those tiles, and we can define ourselves secretly the value for each of those tiles. The X means this tile is going away, and so one tile has a cost of 2 coins and the other one of 7 coins. So if a player wants to buy this, he or she has to give me 2 coins and my own 2 coins, so I get 4 coins. And if no one buys the other tile, I have to give away the 7 coins I used to define the price to keep the tile. So this game basically uses the concept of I cut, you choose. Who has more than 1 children? Who has 2 children? Anybody in here? Okay, if you want to share something, you say you cut and you choose, and then thereby they will try to make it as equal as possible. And this system with does it? Okay, and this concept is quite interesting, because you have in about 60 to 90 minutes, you have the whole norming, storming, performing phase of, we find our own level and our own language for the value of different things we're trading in the game. And the last example is called QE, which refers to the first banking and financial crisis, where public banks started to invest into their own country to activate the market. And the craziest thing about this game, and it is working, is that you're bidding for companies, those discs in the middle, and there is one who is leading the auction, and he or she has to write the amount he or she wants to spend on this company visible for all players. And all the others are secretly writing down what they want to spend on this tile. Then the auctionator takes all the sheets where the numbers are on, compares them, and the player with the highest value gets the disc. But nobody knows the amount that was invested, which is already crazy enough. But even further, there is no limit of what you can invest. You can write 3 million, you can write 50, you can write 6 billion. So there's no limit because we are banks of countries and we can create the money in the way we want. But the clue at the end of the game is that the one player who spent the most money is out of the game. So there's hidden information, there's psychology, there is this mistrust, and again there is in 20 minutes some form of common understanding of how much things are worth created. Yeah. Okay, there's a rating system in the end, but that's fine. Okay, so once again, it's about board games are so transparent in the way they show their structures. So we have to abstract, we have to reduce, we have to get to the core. But therefore, or on the other hand, we have people, players, involved in the game, even being some sort of gaming material. And the flaws of the players can be game design. Not knowing what others have, lying, this can all be game design, can all be game mechanisms. But one thing that's really important, if you lie a game on the table, and players realize those are coins, or you tell them this is the money in the game, then suddenly something changes because all the attributes, all the things connected to coins and money are suddenly projected on those components. And that's something that is unique to the idea and to the concept of money in games. And that's it. Thank you.